This is the Bears Barroom Radio Network. Parental discretion is advised.
Hey, you're listening to Waddle and Sylvie.
No, you're not.
Yeah, you are.
This isn't our show. This is Shy Fans in the Stand.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
I guess you don't know Glicky Sunshine.
I'm happy as a clam.
Shy Fans in the Stands. With Joe.
Joey Two Scopes?
Greg Brad. Worldwide show for the fans.
Shy Fans in the Stands.
Two guys in the seats, scooping sports for Chicago.
I don't know what to say. I'm just a fan trying to talk sports.
Boom. I'm happy as a clam.
Greg Brad. You
Worldwide show for the fans.
Quit bragging me.
By the fans, two guys in the seats, scooping sports for Chicagoland. It's irrelevant, awkward elephant in a room of far drop, all the half and hell of it. The type of change a kid, bringing smiles from Bourbonnais. Brags, ruin plays.
No video for you.
They say, biggity bounce on Twitter for reasons unknown. Mitt Rom's nephew laying gold bars of stone. With this part of two scoops, they come together for sure. Here's the ringy ding ding, Tuesday secure. Locked up, not locked down against every single week. Talking all Chicago sports with two guys in the seats. Not portraying analysts, it's just fans with the question. Hitting highs and lows with the shiny perspective. The fire, the passion, listeners are in good hands. There's Barroom, Shy Fans in the Stands. Shy Fans in the Stands.
That's beautiful. I'm happy as a clam.
With Joe Mandel
absolutely.
and Greg Brad. Worldwide show for the fans.
I'm an old football connoisseur.
Shy Fans in the Stands.
Look, I don't know what to say. I'm just a fan trying to talk sports.
Neither team deserved to win that game yesterday.
Worldwide.
These seem like predictable run plays.
This is Waddle and Sylvie, and you're listening to Shy Fans in the Stand.
Run, pass, run, pass.
Shy Fans in the Stands.
Shy Fans in the Stands.
And now we're coming to find out that Eddie Pinheiro wasn't even asked what side of the hash he wants the ball placed at.
Oh, absolutely.
Fans in the stands.
Throw the ball and run no huddle. What's up, Hakeem?
Oh, what's up, Bears Barroom?
Hey.
Y'all got a great show going on.
Thank you, sir.
Can't wait to come back on.
Hey man, about 9 years ago, I auditioned for American Idol.
What's up, everybody? This is Corey Wooten, and you're listening to Shy Fans in the Stands.
Boom.
Hey, this is David Kaplan from ESPN 1000 and NBC Sports Chicago. You know what one of my favorite shows is? Shy Fans in the Stands with my guys, Greg and Joe. They are awesome.
Boom.
Is that good enough for you, wise ass?
What about our buddy Greg Bragg? Shouldn't we mention him?
No.
Previously on Bears Barroom April Fool's Day.
My bad. I fucking got all this shit going on at work, and fucking my phone keeps fucking up. I got it in a damn plastic bag in my pocket.
Well, sure, I know you're doing the work with your phone, so I totally get it.
No, yeah, man. I just fucking thought I'd give you a fucking heads up, man. I don't know, fucking Aldo just didn't sound. I don't know. It just sounded like him and North and Phil and Aldo, or Phil and Shane, all kind of came at a head at each other. And I don't know. It doesn't. You know me, Mr. Positivity. It just didn't sound very optimistic.
Is it in regards to like the future and the direction and stuff like that?
Yeah, you know, just shows and money and this and that. I don't, you know me, I say that stuff, but it sounds like they've been fucking kind of at a crossroads, and I don't know. I guess next week might be our last show. Is just what they were telling me, so I just wanted to make sure you heard it from me.
No, listen to me pushing Greg along
about it.
Yeah, I'll make sure I.
Mr. Emotional Joe.
Oh, Joe's really good.
I
didn't buy it.
Stupid shit that we have to deal with, you know, in regards to Bears Barroom. And unfortunately, some of these guys on the network are going to find out tonight that they no longer have a show. and that we have an issue with the swag shop. So earlier today, Shane and I had to talk and call the swag man, Aldo. Do you have audio of that?
Yeah.
Or do we want to talk to the first guy? Because I guess Joe Mandel offended somebody at the NFL with his behavior on the network, mentioning certain things. I have no idea. I don't know why it's repeating.
I think Joe's Mixler page is up. So
that's what's
man.
Mute the sound.
He's on the air.
Joe.
Holy shit, Joe. So basically, we're gonna have to cut Shy fans in the stands. The NFL is going after us for some reason. Something you said. Apparently, Greg threw his hands up, says he's innocent, and a label, something with your fantasy football goon. What is it called?
Fantasy football goon, Greg?
Yeah, what is it called though, Shane? A graphic? What is it?
Yeah, it would be a graphic.
Forget what the fuck they call it. It's the brand. Your graphic of the NFL. They want to get rid of that and something with the Shy Fans logo that we have crossed the line here. Joe's on the air now.
I am on the air. And I only have one response to that, my friend. Happy April Fool's Day, motherfuckers.
And we are back. Welcome back to Shy Fans in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Mandel. Call me Joey Two Scoops. And Greg Braggs Jr. is here with me, Greg. And Greg, you and I were talking about an amazing week on the Barroom.
Yeah, we sure were. Just trying to get all our technical difficulties in order. We appreciate all the patience in the chat, but this has been a big week at the Barroom, so we wanted to make sure we honored that. And again, like I was saying to everyone, we're going to start with the Doug Plank interview. We have a few clips cut out, and then we've got some clips from all the other shows here at the network in a huge week that it was. So, we hope you enjoy some of these. And then, they're little clips, and then some of them are a few minutes long, and then we'll react to them quickly. If the chat room's got any questions, from what we're hearing, we'd love to answer them, and then, we'll move on to the next clip. So, again, like I said, we're going to start with Doug Plank, former Bears safety and one of the most passionate Bears to ever put on the pads, and you're going to hear that right now as we started off with Doug Plank. This guy, unbelievable. The Bears need to get him into Hallis Hall immediately.
Yes, for sure. And real quick, a little background on this clip, Greg, before we get into it. Plank, when he first comes on the air, kind of gives his perspective on playing the game and wanting to destroy the opponent. It's kind of a deep dive into his mind. So this is a great clip. Take a listen to this.
Well, thank you. You know what? I have a little different perspective than most players and people that watch the game. I realized that, when I got there, I was lucky to be there. I was thankful and fortunate and all that sort of thing. But I realized every play was special because, this wasn't going to happen again. In fact, it might just be 1 year. It might not even be a year. I was a 12th round draft pick. 291st player pick. And I promise nobody, when I came to training camp, they went, oh my gosh, there he is. Look out. He's going to terrorize everybody. And I thought, you know what? If I don't play at 100% or even above, then I really have no chance of making this team. So why don't I just make that a staple of who I am every year that I played? And, I know that I could have had more interceptions and all that sort of thing. You know what? To me, it didn't really matter interceptions. I was about trying to destroy the opponent, hit him as hard as I can, have him fumble the ball, which I caused a lot of fumbles, but they weren't recorded as stats back then, forced fumbles. But I probably had twice as many forced fumbles as I had interceptions. But you know what? I can tell you guys, man, I had fun.
Yeah, Doug Plank had a ton of fun on the field, Greg, and this interview was a ton of fun. I mean, how was that for you listening to Doug, talk about his mindset on the field?
Yeah, it was humbling, to hear that passion. As I said in the day, I set up the interview with him, so I had to call him and kind of let him know how the process would work. And, he asked me, what kind of message should I have for the listeners tonight? And I was just like, what? Like, I never had anybody ask me that before of all the guests we've had on these different shows. And it would just kind of showed me his passion, showed me how excited he was to come on and tell the story and talk about the Chicago Bears. And you heard that. That was the opening clip, one of the first, statements he made here on Bears Barroom Radio Network, Bears 100 Proof. And you could hear, his passion and intensity right there. And little did we know we were about to go on an 1.5-hour journey. And that's what I'm saying. You got to listen to the whole thing. We're going to play you some clips here. But
it's fantastic.
To truly understand and appreciate this man, Doug Plank, you got to listen to this whole episode and the whole interview. It's just outstanding stuff. So we have a few more clips here. But it was, Joe, it was just a very fun and humbling experience. I didn't watch Doug Plank play. I was born in 1985. I was 2 months old when the Bears won the Super Bowl.
It's a good
so
year.
I didn't see Doug Plank play. I was alive for at least one Super Bowl championship, but I didn't necessarily get to see it. So, for me, it was a learning experience, and hearing his story and kind of understanding how the Bears became what they are today, and it was fun for me, kind of sit back and hear, Phil, Shane, and Aldo, really ask the good questions to bring that out of him. I learned a lot in that way too, Joe, just trying to take some things from them, as far as trying to get the best interview you can out of a guy like that. Because, as I said on the show, would I wanted him to come on Shy Fans? Of course, but he made sense to go on 100 Proof. Me and you, we have knowledge of the Bears, but we never saw Doug Plank play.
Right.
Aldo has. No. And that's our main show here on this network. So we had to make sure he was put in the right hands. At least for this first interview, I have a feeling we're going to see Doug Plank more here on this network going forward because he was so excited to talk. So, we have a few more clips here for you guys to hear.
Yeah, we sure do. And this next one, Phil asks, Doug about the fire and heart of the 46 defense. Listen to his take. It's really, really refreshing. So check this out.
Back to my Pee Wee football days, you forgot all about being an NFL player. This was something you absolutely loved to do.
Let me piggyback off that because you were a coach, you played, you've also been an analyst. So when you look at Ryan Pace and the Chicago Bears as a fan, or you're an analyst, do you look at these players through the eyes of Doug Plank, the freaking father of the 46, and your coaching tree that you grew through their philosophy? And can you tell, like, right away when you walk around or see these players on the field who has that attitude that you're talking about, that willingness to fill in the alley and play that safety position? Does it frustrate you to watch some of these guys that might run fast but lack that heart?
Being a coach, you started becoming a coach in Chicago with Buddy Ryan because it wasn't just about meetings like, hey, here's what we're going to do, but he kept telling you, here's your keys, here's what I want you to do. Mm-hmm. Then I want you to go over and give that guy a hug after he smashed the quarterback or he's made the interception. The other thing was weird on our team back when Buddy first got there. If you had an interception, here's another reason why I didn't want the interceptions. You were on your own. You had to be your own blocker. You had to return the interception. You know what the other 10 guys were doing? Killing the quarterback. They were going and crushing the quarterback. They made a rule in the NFL that if a player is not trying to make an attempt to tackle an interception or a kickoff return, you are not allowed to hit him. Mm-hmm. That rule, I guarantee you know why? Quarterbacks would throw interceptions against us, and it was funny watching them on film. They would start running for the sidelines. They didn't make it very often. In fact, 50% of the games that 85 season, the starting quarterback never finished the game. So it was like whenever you were, defense used to be, you're supposed to read and react. Read means you don't do anything. You stand there and try to figure out what the play is, and then you make a left or right move. Buddy said, screw that read-react. We're going to react, and then we're going to read on the run. So whatever we did, angles we took, direction, and, why it was the 46 defense, and Buddy put this on the board, and, I was middle linebacker, and Otis Wilson asked him, hey, Buddy, what are you going to call this? And he goes, we're going to call it the 46 defense. You know what? There wasn't one person, including me, that thought it was a big deal. Because you know why? We already had 10 or 20 defenses like that named after guys. Jeff Fisher had a coverage. A guy went for Gaines, a defensive back. Everybody had a coverage or a pass rush or something like that. So it was no big deal. It's just when this thing hit the field, oh my gosh, it revolutionized football, not only in the fear that it brought to other players, but it was so effective because you were no longer reading and reacting. You were dominating. And, and even sometimes we got taken advantage of, maybe a big play or a touchdown or whatever. But you know what? Look at the field. Half those guys on offense were walking with a limp as they were going off the field. Because you know why? Because we kicked their butts. Yeah. Whatever that play was, somebody paid a price. I mean, if it was a touchdown given up, 5 guys had to go down on offense for giving up a touch. I'm telling you, we struck fear. The other thing, like you guys said, I wasn't a great player. I'll admit that. I mean, I played with, I think passion is equal to anybody. But, the bottom line is I've been, 66 now and been to a lot of NFL events. And any event I've ever been to, if there's ever a player that I walked up to against that played during my period, not one of them said, Doug, listen, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. They go, oh, yeah, we knew who you were and where you were. In fact, my rookie year, we played in the Silver Dome. That was the first year they opened that thing up. And we went in there, and it was like a wind tunnel. They filled it with air so the top would be up there. And so we ended up walking into the Lions locker room. There was nobody there. On their board was my picture and a couple other ones with some numbers below it and a dollar mark in front of it. That's what it was back then. So am I going to try to fool myself and say, hey, I didn't think people were coming after me? I knew they were coming after me. And, it's one time I even got called for, unnecessary roughness. I didn't even hit anybody. I flew over a pile. And I said, why did you call, a penalty? He goes, you had bad intentions, Doug. I said, I'm sorry. I have bad intentions every play. Yeah, I have bad intentions. So, but, it's amazing, guys, how the game has changed. And I wish it was like it was before, but, it was made it really, really special.
Yeah, Greg. Man, this guy just basically emptying his mind and telling us all his thoughts. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and it was just interesting to hear, like the insight of them watching the tape and seeing the quarterbacks after they got a pick or a fumble, the quarterback for the other team run into the sidelines because he didn't want to get laid out once the offense turns to defense when the ball got turned over. I mean, just the idea of that is just really funny to hear. And, of course, how the 4-6 defense came to be known, sure. And how these other guys had defenses named after them, For me, that was something I guess I really didn't know. And, that last quote, I had bad intentions every hit I took. Like, you really hear, why this guy was who he became for the Chicago Bears, and he was the underdog. That's what I learned in the interview was he's a guy that came in the back of the draft and had to scrap his way, to make the roster. And, for me as someone that's gone to camp for the last 20 years, I don't get to go anymore because they took it from us here at Bourbonnais. We'll see how the Hallis Hall one goes if we get a training camp this year. But that's what I found myself becoming as a fan when I went to Bears camp. You initially go to see the big names and see the Urlacher and the Hester and, and those guys, in the early 2000s when they went to the Super Bowl, and you'd want to see Bernard Berrien and Mike Brown and all these big names. Tommy Harris would be out there for 2 hours after practice. That's why a lot of people go to camp. But when you start going, a lot to camp, you find yourself rooting for the underdogs, the guys at the end of the roster that are fighting to make the team, because you see how hard they're working. The other guys are trying to, not to say everyone's out there working hard, but some guys are preparing for the season and making sure they don't get hurt. And, everyone, has a different game plan of how they enter the season. But these guys that don't have that luxury because they're scratching and clawing for those last 3 roster spots, you find yourself rooting for them because of how hard they're putting their passion on the field to make the team. And that's who Doug Plank was. And I feel like had I been going to training camps back then, Doug Plank probably would have been on my radar fairly quickly.
He'd be your bro.
Yeah, exactly, because he just has that right intensity and that right attitude that I think anybody as a fan wants for your team, your players on your team, to have the same kind of passion that we have here, all us listeners at Bears Barroom Radio Network have for the Chicago Bears, and he certainly has it, Joe.
Well, and it's that toughness too, man. I mean, he talks about everyone's limping off the field, because they're kicking ass, but you don't have that really anymore. I mean, I feel like in the NFL, it's not like you don't see guys playing through stuff anymore, and it's probably with good reason to keep their careers longer, but it's kind of refreshing to hear him talk about that.
Yeah, the brutality of the sport has definitely been lessened. Every once in a while, you'll get one of those defenses that's just, got a bunch of studs on them and they wreck the league. A lot of times it's with a good pass rush. You saw that with the Denver defense a few years ago. Let's hope the Bears have a pass rush like that. The Ravens, that's dating back even a little further.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but they had a pretty ferocious defense, Terrell Suggs and all those guys. The Steelers and the Bengals, seems like every time they play, they take it back to that old school way of playing football. That dirty hits and everything else that you used to see, bad intentions when you went to strike someone, as Doug Plank said.
Bad intentions on every play,
mostly
baby.
it's become a league of offense, a league of throwing the football, and it's definitely a different league than it was today, than it was before.
No doubt, and that's a great segue, Greg, into our next clip here. Shane asked Doug about the Bears QB competition between Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky, your buddy. And of course, in Doug Plank fashion, he kind of sidesteps it, but talks about the importance of momentum and the hiccups on and off the field. Take a listen to this clip right now.
And so that, really brings me to present day and these 2020 Chicago Bears. And obviously it's a different world with the quarantine and looks like no OTAs and, training camp may be pushed back. But as you're looking at this current team, and we know how important quarterback is, and that seems to be the story whenever the Bears are brought up, do you have any thoughts or expectations on how you think this is going to play out in terms of the quarterback with Mitch and Foles? Or what are your thoughts on this quarterback in Chicago with Mitch versus Nick Foles?
Well, I'll just say this, when I was a player, I never really liked past players, commenting on whether I was good or whether the Chicago Bears were good. So, I'll probably just leave that one alone. I mean, I certainly have my ideas and memories, and, and watching them, they were really, a couple years ago, they looked like they really had momentum, especially at the end of the season, and obviously with the double dink, keeping them out of the future run in the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. But, that they had some hiccups. They did some things which I didn't like. I mean, it didn't make any sense to me. I did a game for a network in Chicago, and they were against the Patriots. And, let's face it, Patriots are going to be a high-scoring team. You better put some points on the board. The Bears, for whatever reason, came out, thought they were going to run the ball that day. I mean, come on. I mean, this is not the, the Earl Campbell days where you're going to run. You got to throw. And what other thing got me was they kept trying to run the football into the short side of the field. When you're a defensive player, you love teams that run into the short side of the field because you don't have to cover as much territory. And, play after play after play, I'm on. Listen, who is down there on the sidelines? I mean, unfortunately, I was on the other side of the coaches Otherwise, I think I would have went down there a couple places. Hey, listen, can you tell me what's going on? Is somebody limping over there on that side? Or why are we calling all these runs to the short side of the field? And, obviously, it didn't work out well for the Bears. I mean, I still think they've got some great players, and, it's not the one-dimensional attack that we used to have with Walter Payton. But I still think they could have done better. And, I think Mitch was inconsistent last year in terms of his decisions. But, you got to think, I don't know if he has too much leverage out there, guys, in terms of making his players play choices. I think those are all coming from the sidelines. And, I think the coaching staff has to accept some of that responsibility.
Hey, Doug, we've got a lot of people in the chat.
There is a lot of people in the chat, Greg.
Absolutely a lot of people in the chat, and we've been fired up. These guys, we appreciate everybody hanging out with us here tonight. We've got Bobby and Cujo, Zach Sullivan, Shane, the smartest man, as you just heard him here on our network, here on our show tonight, asking some questions.
It was a smart question, Shane.
Yeah, he's a smart man. We appreciate everybody hanging out here. And, before we talk a little bit of what we just heard, I do want to say, I was going to save it for the end of the show, but get your audio clips, your audio messages in to me and Joe about who you think is going to be the 43rd pick in the draft. We're going to be here on Shy Fans. We're going to be, collecting all of these predictions from everyone that's on our network, all the listeners that listen to our show. We're going to get them, try to make them short and sweet, because we're going to try to put a whole, audio thing together.
Big old segment together.
And make your prediction on who you think the 43rd pick in the draft for the Chicago Bears will be. And if you end up getting it right, we're going to make another, audio clip here after the draft. And if you end up getting it right, maybe you'll get a prize. Who knows? But make sure you get your clip in, and we're gonna throw that together for the Tuesday before the draft.
And if they get it right, Greg, they'll go down in history on Bears Barroom.
Right. You can take the smartest man title for a week, I did.
You'll have that audio clip in your back pocket for the rest of your life.
Exactly. It's like a Dundee. So, as we just heard on that clip with Doug Plank, the funniest part about that whole thing was, where he talked about when he got into the coaching. Obviously you can kind of hear the sentiments of he thinks that a guy like Mitch Trubisky could work out, and I found that interesting. But the thing that really stood out in that clip, Joe, was how he talked about how Nagy kept running to the short side of the field, and that defenses love when a coach does that because you're helping them. You're making it easier on them. So who's been the one on our network saying that for 2 years now? Not just last year, when the Bears were 8-8 and every up and down, and mostly down, and the run game was non-existent. Who was the one saying it for the last 2 years, even when the Bears were having success in 2018, and the play calling was an issue for one guy on this network?
It's Phil and Shane, both.
Phil and Shane for sure, but Draft Dr. Phil was beating the drum. Even in 2018, I can remember specifically, we'd be winning games, and he'd be like, you'd win a game, I'd be all excited. I don't care how we win, just win, baby. And as Al Davis would say for the Raiders, but we'd get a win, and after the game, Shane would be, or not Shane, but Phil would be like losing his mind and be like, I don't like this play calling. It's too cute. I can't do this. And then it reared its ugly head last year. And then all of a sudden you hear Doug Plank seeing the same thing, and it just goes to show you that old school football mind mentality.
Exactly.
And
just what we were talking about, Greg.
You can try to recreate the wheel in the NFL, but at the end of the day, the football, code or laws, there's certain laws you can't break, and running to the short side of the field seems to be one of them.
The unwritten rules of football, Greg.
Right. Or written. They might be on etched in some stone somewhere. I don't know. Who knows? Aldo's old enough. He might be able to find it.
Yeah, there you go. There's a research project. Or Dan Aguirre might know.
Right, Dan. He's a good the Bears historian of our network. He might be able to find where the stone is etched in. Of the rules of the NFL. But it sounds like running to the short side of the field is a big no-no, and that's something we saw a lot of here in Chicago. Now, in regards to the way he looked at the quarterback situation, Joe, I really it's just funny to me to hear guys like him or there was another former Bear that was on ESPN 1000. Now his name's eluding me.
Recently?
Yeah, but regardless, they both thought that Mitch could be the guy, and I just found it interesting. These two guys, they played on the team. His name will come to me, but Doug Planks played on the team, and he sees something different than like the majority of Bears fans are seeing. And it's something that I see in him. I'm not a football aficionado, as I like to say, but I know what I see, and
you tell it like it is.
I don't see a bust in Mitchell Trubisky. I saw a very poor performance last year from Mitch in the entire offense and the head coach calling the plays on offense. I saw it was a shit show across the board, but I see something different in Mitch that a lot of people don't see, and maybe we'll never see it here in Chicago. To be a good quarterback takes a lot of different variables. It's not just, overall talent. Sometimes it is if you're a Patrick Mahomes or someone like that. But, look at Dan Marino. He was an all-time great quarterback.
Never
won
got a
Super Bowl.
championship.
So it's not an exact science, and when it comes to Mitch, I see a guy that could be a good quarterback on this team, and it sounds like Doug has those same kind of sentiments.
Yeah. He's got that old school mentality, and I love it. And another old school part of his mentality, Greg, is we're going to see this in this next clip here. Aldo asked Doug about his vicious style of play. And, he, as you would imagine, he's refreshingly honest and shows his old school style. So take a listen here.
At those highlights, you launched yourself into ball carriers, into wide receivers, into running backs, into tight ends. You hit with such ferocity. Now, is that something that you were born with, that when you were in the cradle, were you running into the bars and stuff and just trying to burst your way out? How does I've never played the game at any high level, so I'm just interested in knowing, how do you develop that ferocity to want to just knock the teeth out of people?
Someone asked me that once, and I thought about it. I said, you know what, here's what I did. I used to try to practice controlling my fear, because we all have fear, fear of getting hurt, injured, knocked out, whatever. There's been some terrible things happen to players where they've actually even died on the field. So I'm not saying, I'm some kind of a Top Gun pilot, in warfare. It's not like that. But you know what? I'm not the biggest guy either. I'm the guys below me are like punters and kickers. So I mean, in terms of height. So when you walk on that field, hey, you better have an attitude. And when you're running full speed at something, even like driving, I got in 3 wrecks when I was young. I rolled cars over going 100 miles an hour. Fortunately, I lived through it. And you know what? Something about going fast and hard was always in my DNA. I always oh my gosh, this is great. It's like taking helium or something on. Yeah, it's like, I can't believe this is happening to me. And but then you just have to start working out. And I became a fanatical weightlifter just because I wanted to survive. I'd work on my neck muscles and my shoulders. And, when you hit that many times, though, you're going to sustain damage and injury. I replaced both knees with titanium, both shoulders with titanium. Adding up through my high school, college, and pro years, I had 30 concussions. And people go, no way, no. Think about it. 8 years in the National Football League. I played 1 year in the USFL, 4 years of college, 3 years because I had an operation my freshman year. I got hurt the first day on AstroTurf. Never played on AstroTurf. Made a cut. I was a running back. Tore my MCL and ACL ligaments. Ooh. And so that was done. And so, you know what? Here's what this sounds really childish, guys. That guy that hit me that knee that first day at Ohio State, I treated every person I came up against the rest of my life like that was the guy that hurt me. And he's the one that tore both of my ligaments. And you know what? It ain't going to happen again. And look out, man. I'm coming after you. If I got a crow to get to you, that's what's going to happen. And, the other thing, too, is we're all examples to each other. We don't even know it. If you go in there and do some suicidal play and you knocked over the blocker and then got the ball carrier or hit the quarterback, your players were like, oh, my gosh, they were in such awe of you. And the same thing for them. The Mike Singletaries, Dan Hamptons, Gary Fences, oh my gosh, I mean, you talk about brotherly love, man, it develops, and it becomes something that you can't live without. You can't play without it. And it makes the whole experience of what you had with the Chicago Bears, not at Ohio State, but with the Chicago Bears, so special. Man, like tears are running down your face when the game's going on, not from fear, from enjoyment. It's like, oh my gosh.
You know what that is?
I've never felt
pride.
before.
Pride in your position, pride in what you do. I look at the heart of a champion when I watch you on tape. I remember.
Yes, Phil remembers just like we all do. And Greg, I don't know about you, but the biggest eye-opener for me in that portion right there is the knee replacements and the shoulder replacements. I mean, this guy put his body on the line every day. And it's just eye-opening. It really is.
Yeah, he was, you could just hear it. It's something that is ingrained inside your mind, to not have that fear. The thing that really resonated with me is that first guy that hit him at Ohio State, he treated like every single one, after that. And I think that's kind of the mentality you need to have. And then the other thing that he said, too, was, we're all examples of each other. We just don't know it. I thought that was a great line. Like, I think that's something you could at work, not just on the football field, that's everywhere. And, doing the right thing is contagious. Playing hard is contagious. So if someone like Doug Plank is laying a guy out, like he said, then the other guy is going to want to do that. And then my favorite part, my favorite line.
Taking helium.
My favorite line of the whole thing too was that, of course, that'll be a drop for the ages as far as I'm concerned. But he just had so much energy and so much passion, and like some of his sayings like that were just really funny. He really was comfortable, on the network and on 100 Proof. And he was like, what's it going to be like, to asking about the message and all this stuff. And I was like, you'll see right away. These guys are real easygoing. Everybody, is very passionate about the Bears. And you could just see it really, unfolding. And you could hear how comfortable he was getting saying funny things like that. So that was what really was sticking out to me, was just seeing how comfortable he started to get. A few times I thought he was starting to like run out his team because he'd been on for so long. I was like, man, they're asking, well, how long do we got him for? I was like, it seems like he wants to be on for the full, Bears 100 Proof's a 4-hour show. He probably could have went the full 4 hours, Joe.
He sounded like he wanted to, man. I tell you that. And man, he did not shy away from any questions, Greg. And you even got one in. You got to this next one here. You asked Doug about playing with Doug Buffon, and and we get to hear a little story about his smoking habits before the game, man. So this is pretty hilarious. Listen to this.
To the Bears, Heart 4803 also wanted to know, and I know Aldo really wanted me to ask this question as well. What was it like playing with Doug Buffon?
I really loved Doug because that was. I got there in 75, and if you were a rookie, you were treated like a rookie. Nobody, you had to go do crappy things for other veteran players. Doug Buffon wasn't like that at all. I mean, he was from Pennsylvania. Yeah, I remember the first day I was there, he goes, hey, Doug, welcome to Chicago Bears. Good luck. And, wow, he just played with such grit. The other thing, too, is I never saw a player smoke cigarettes before he went out in the game. And this is the National Football League in the locker room. Now, he's not the only one. There's 4 or 5 guys smoking off. One guy had a cigar. Most of them were smoking cigarettes. I'm thinking, wow, this is crazy. This is like something that you would Coach Hayes would smash you in the face. He'd tear your helmet off if he saw you smoking. It was okay. It was okay to smoke. And I'm going, okay, this is the National Football League. Things are a little different here. The other thing, the first game I played, in the National Football League against the Baltimore Colts at the time. And, I'm coming up there, and the guy goes down, and my coach always, Woody Hayes used to say, play to the whistle, play to the whistle. You know what? Yep. They didn't blow the whistle for like 3 seconds after the guy lands on the ground. So, hey, I'm not saying I'm a late hitter or anything like that. Listen, I play to the whistle. Some of these plays where you see players just quit and they just stop because they assume somebody's down. Hey, you know what? You'll never see me on a film doing that because I'm going full blast, and at the last second, sometimes someone blows a whistle. Now what do? I'm full speed, 2 feet, maybe 1 foot away from the running back. What am I going to do? I got to somehow miss him, fly through the air. And I did it because just that one time where he may drop the ball or he may break the tackle. You know what? I always make sure, man, if I'm coming over there, you better go down because I'm blasting you instead. And
you never win going half speed. You never win not giving your exactly.
Man, smoking before a game. Could you imagine, hitting a blunt before doing a 40-meter dash, Craig?
I don't know. That sounds like a tall order, but that's what I mean. He just painted the picture of what the NFL was like back then. And for me, I didn't, like I said, born in '85, started watching football in the '90s, and I didn't see that era. So it's just funny to hear his recollection of that. And he's like, he's got a totally different mindset. He comes from Ohio State. He's small time, not a big name. He's trying to make the roster. Then he gets there and it's like all these celebrities, smoking cigarettes, and his mind is blown. It kind of reminded me almost of like the scene in Rookie of the Year, when Henry Rowan Gardner goes into the locker room and all these guys are doing, adult things. And it's not what he ever thought of, as looking at the baseball players. That's almost as like how Doug Plank was walking into the locker room. Like you could hear his childlike enthusiasm, like and naiveness of not knowing, hey guys, smoke cigarettes, before. I can't believe this. This is crazy. It was just cool to hear that, I could see that. He really brought you into his mind there. And that was what was fun about the whole interview, was just learning those little things.
Hell yeah, man. And we're getting towards the tail end of the Doug Planks section here, but we got 2 more audio clips from that interview, and then we're going to get on to the other shows on the network and the amazing week that we had. But another great question asked by Shane here. He asked Doug about the origination of the name of the 46 defense. And, of course, Doug had a great story, as always.
Always been interested in. I'm 43, so I'm probably a little bit young to be back. I'm definitely not as old as Aldo is. He was talking about that.
That's for sure.
One thing I've always wondered about is when we get to the point where it becomes the 46 defense and Buddy is honoring, you with that, as his favorite player, like, where were you, like, when you found that out for the first time, that you were, that was all about you, number 46, and like, where were you, and what type of emotions did you feel when you had such a prestigious honor from a coach that way? That's something that, is still being talked about to this day.
Buddy Ryan was very creative, and he had blitzes and coverages and a whole bunch of other things. And, he would name it after certain players. He would either name it by a number or whatever their, Todd Dell was named Taco, and Jeff Fisher was Guppy, because he was so small. And so everybody, it was like the old, going down the road with the, not the walkie-talkie, but the, the thing they used to use, the truckers for where the police officers were. It sounded like you were going down a highway, with just a bunch of truckers, naming for, they have all their names for each other. And so if you sat in that meeting room, you would not even know who he was talking about. And my name used to be Blondie. You were either an adjective, or a number. And the adjective was not very complimentary. So what happened was, Buddy came down, and he had just left Paul Krause in Minnesota. He was up there coaching with Bud Grant. And he had Paul Krause, a guy that used to like to play deep and get interceptions and never want to hit anybody. Never wanted to talk to anybody, never wanted to make any contact. I was a complete flip on that. I played close, like 8 to 10 yards to the line of scrimmage. I watched the linemen. They told me every single time where there was run or pass. Those guards told me whether it was a run left, right, or whatever. And so I started learning how to read linemen. Don't go in the backfield because that's not going to tell you. But I think he was used to really deep, sensitive, or safe free safeties. He was not accustomed to someone like me that I want to hit somebody every play. I want to make the tackle. I don't want to, if it's a pass, okay, I hope he runs across you, Rocco's. I'm going to smash that guy so hard. This is something he's never going to forget the rest of his life. So, Buddy then finally says, this just doesn't make any sense. You love to hit so much and make tackles. He goes, why don't we move you up closer to the line of scrimmage? And he used it initially as a 2nd and 3rd and down long situation, and I became the middle linebacker. But they changed the lineup also. It was a 6-man line. They slid everybody down to the weak side, and they put 2 linebackers right over top of the tight end. So now it's a 6-man line. I'm the one linebacker. Jeff Fisher is the weak side linebacker. Gary Fencing is free safety, and then, of course, we had 2 corners. So they just matched up on the outside guys. And you know what? Here's my point. If you get the right guys on a team that really, really, really want to play, oh, my gosh, that's what that team was. Maybe they weren't all pro players, but most of them were. But you know what? You get good players, great players, and then you get an attitude, and that's what Buddy was able to instill. Oh, my God, look out. It was like George Patton with the tanks. We are smashing you. We are coming over you. And guys, we would run back to the huddle afterwards and have so much fun just telling each other what we did and how much fun it was going to be on the next play. We're going to kill the quarterback. It's going to be great. I mean, it took me back to my Pee-wee football days. You forgot all about being an NFL player. This was something you absolutely loved to do.
Let me piggyback.
Absolutely, man. And Greg, the passion in his voice, you could hear him with these fond memories, just kind of like talking about that time in the defensive huddle, talking about getting this defense, this kick-ass defense together. I mean, doesn't it make you just want to run out and run through a wall?
100%. That was definitely probably my favorite clip of the whole show. So I'm glad you picked that for the last one because, we got one more after this, of course. It's a little funnier, but this one just really resonated. It just, you hear how the 4-6 defense came to life, how, it was just this unstoppable force, and they had the right pieces at the right time. And he was a big part of that because, like he said, he liked to stick his head in there, and make the tackle, which, Buddy Ryan wasn't used to safeties like that. You didn't see that as much back then, from what I understand, because, as I said, born in 85. But the thing that really stood out to me was how he talked about playing with that childlike enthusiasm, playing like you were back in Pee-wee football. And that's what the great teams are. They had all pros and they had the talent, but it was more about how their love for their game, the love of the game, the love for playing for each other, running back to that huddle, talking about what they just did. Can't wait for the next play. That's what momentum is. That's what you can't quantify on a stat sheet. That's what the 2018 Bears were. You know it when you see it. And they had an advantage because the defense, they had a defensive strategy that no one had seen before. But it was more about the energy they brought, how they played, and that momentum. Sometimes you get that ball rolling and you can't be stopped, and you start having that confidence. And you see it, when a team gets hot in the whole season. And that's who they were. They embodied confidence, I think even more so than the strategy of what they were doing. And that's what makes a great team. They did the Super Bowl shuffle. I didn't realize, it took me till I was 10 years old or something to realize that they didn't do the Super Bowl shuffle after they had won it.
No.
They did it to start the season. You talk about balls. Talk about, knowing that we're going to come kick your door down and beat you. Like he was saying, we knew we were going to terrorize them. And like I said, they had a decided advantage because they had a defense that the NFL hadn't quite figured out yet. But really, it was just that supreme confidence that they knew they were going to come out and kick your ass. And maybe you got a few plays on them, but they were still going to keep coming for you.
Well, it was supreme confidence, Greg. And speaking of supreme confidence, you had supreme confidence in this interview with Doug Plank. You even felt like cutting him off and jumping in there.
How I do, Joe.
Yeah, we know how you do, Greg. And, I had to put together a little audio of some of your best cutting off Doug Plank moments. So let's enjoy this fantastic occasion. Here we go.
So to break it up here, we got some funny questions here.
And then
he just controlled everything.
So, and then, going back to the Bears, Heart 4803 also wanted to know, and I know Aldo really wanted me to ask this question.
Hey, man, we roll how we roll, and if people are annoyed or intimidated by it, that's too bad for them.
Yeah! No, nobody is intimidated, actually.
So,
yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Doug. Just to piggyback off of having you as the coach here, I did have one more serious question. Chubbs82 wants to know how many times did Mike Ditka tell Buddy Ryan to fuck off?
He's still counting.
We like to keep it loose here at the bar room, buddy.
And go Bears!
A few times,
You know what?
imagine.
I've never seen any.
I am smart. S-M-A-R-T.
Bouncing off of that, and I got a few more here in the chat for you.
I'm just thinking in my mind, what am I going to do today? Who is it going to be? Who's going to get the ball?
So Zach Sullivan here in the. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really good at cutting people off, Doug. It's my talent here on Bears Barroom.
Okay.
Tom Waddle was on last week. I cut him off like 15 times. It's
Tom
my
Waddle.
talent.
Yeah.
Tommy's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine. And so Zach Sullivan here in the chat wants to know, were you ever considered for the role of Flash Gordon?
What the hell do you think you're doing?
All right, this is Doug Plank, the former Chicago Bears safety, 46 defense. And you are listening to Bears 100 Proof. And make it a good one.
Yes!
Perfect.
Look at this. One take.
One take Plank.
One take Plank. Akeem Hicks took 9 takes.
It was. I was waiting for Greg Braggs to step in and step all over you.
I was getting ready to jump in and talk over you, Doug, one last time. I got to get it in there.
You know what it is, though? It's like sports and football and life and that. Hey, guys, you only get one chance to say that, to do the right thing. And no, I mean, that's practice all this time, whether, you're doing presentations or conversations or interviews. And then when the lights come on, you got to be ready.
Because, as a young Bears fan, I'm only 34. I didn't get to see you play. And I've learned a lot tonight. I just thought this was the perfect, platform for these guys. Aldo, Shane, and Phil are the most passionate Bears fans I've ever met, along with all these guys in the chat room. And this has been a very humbling day as a Bears fan. I've learned a lot, and you've made me love the Bears even more than I ever did before with your passion and your heart for this.
Well, thank you guys. Really, I mean, it means a lot to me.
Well, if you ever want to do a regular show on the Bears Barroom Radio Network, you've got a home here, brother.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
That's all, folks.
Wow, Greg, that was monumental.
Yeah, a few swing and misses, but, that's what I liked, how Doug Plank finished that off by giving some words of encouragement. I'm just trying to stick my head in there like, the safety Doug Plank once did for the Chicago Bears, trying to get in there, make a tackle, make a play. That's all I'm trying to do. Trying to step up in the pocket. All the football, terms you want to use. I'm excited. I'm honored. It was my second episode as the chat room moderator. I'm hoping to make it to the third episode. After the Doug Plank interview, like I said, I was drinking a little too much Jack. And
you?
Well, yeah. Well, Aldo drinks, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to drink because Aldo drinks. So I'm trying to keep up, but I realized that I guess I'm a lightweight. I mean, I normally can handle my whiskey. I think I was just tired, Joe. Really? I was just tired.
That's got to be it.
I do this show, then we had that show. It's a lot of prep work, calling people, Doug Plank, all the, trying to line up Nancy Fowler. It's been fun trying to take my cracks here at being the chat room moderator here on Bears 100 Proof coming up tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. And, I've been trying some different things. I even did a little audio work, tried to take a dip in the producing pool, Joe, as you do here at Bears Barroom for I Have a Stream and Shy Fans in the Stands and Fantasy Football Goon. And so I tried to give it a roll. You'll have to tune in tomorrow to see how I did. But the chat room moderator stuff is fun. So I've been working on that. I don't know if I like chat room master, chat room moderator. We might have to come up with something better than that. But it has been fun interacting with everyone in the chat. And I appreciate everybody coming over to our show and hanging out in the chat, trying to keep up with it as best we can. But, we'll see how tomorrow goes.
Yeah.
It'll be episode 3 for me as the chat room moderator. We'll see if I'll screw anything up.
Greg, it was a huge week on the Barroom. I don't know if there's a better way for us to lead it off, Greg, than with the Barfly Tailgate Show.
Yes,
He had a huge guest this week. Alan Robinson stopped by the show. He's talking about his Within Reach Foundation, a great cause for sure. A huge shout out to Bobby Bombs, Ryan Badgley, and Aldo for throwing this together.
Take it away, Bobby.
All right, here we go. Barflies, Bears fans. We are joined today by none other than Chicago Bears wide receiver Allen Robinson. He's coming in to talk about the Within Reach Foundation, and it's this extra special badge of honor. His badge is going to go ahead and kick it. Allen, what's going on, brother?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Pleasure to have you on with us, man. We're excited. We've been promoting Within Reach for quite some time, and we're just excited to help you get the word out, man, about the foundation and how much you've been making an impact throughout the Chicago area and even in the Jacksonville, Florida area when you were part of the Jaguars. But since you've joined the Bears, this initiative and your Within Reach Foundation, man, has really kicked off. And it's really doing great things in Chicago. How important was it in this time? I mean, this is such a strange time, for all of us right now. We're all stuck at home. How important was it for you and the Within Reach Foundation, man, to get this hunger initiative up and running?
It was extremely important. Just looking from the broad spectrum, of everything that's going on right now. It's not just people getting sick. It's people losing jobs, it's people who aren't financially stable, not being able to provide food for their families and things like that, So it is a lot going on with the whole virus in itself, but, also there's still a lot taking place, that's a casual effect from it.
Yeah, and with the impact that you've made in the community, I know we've talked in the past about the foundation on our Barfly Tailgate show. The shopping at Christmas with the kids and so on and so forth. How much joy does that bring you to be able to not only give back to the kids but the community as a whole?
It brings a lot of joy. Again, even like I said, the other day. This initiative that's going on, it's not just something that, I'm personally doing, it's just, trying to get out in front of something, and just getting people together to be able to try to, help a lot of people out, as a whole, So again, I think that's what it's about. Again, it doesn't really come down to, me, myself, and I, again, it's just trying to bring everyone together as a community, to be able for everyone to put their resources together, to make some things possible that may not have necessarily been possible without some special awareness or without us, bringing some light to some different situations.
And your teammates and even the coaching staff have really stepped up, Alan. I know Charles Leno came right out on Twitter with a donation, and I know Coach Nagy has matched not your own donation as well. Having your teammates step up to the plate and, or step up into the pocket, as we like to say here on the Bears Barroom Radio Network, coming to help your cause, man, that's got to make you feel great knowing that your teammates are there and that they can count on you as well during times like this.
Definitely. Again, I think that's the biggest thing. Everyone always, speaks on a lot of different things. And, as far as being accomplished as a player or even as a person, and I think the biggest thing is, when you feel the support from your peers, I think that's the biggest gratitude that you can have, is again being able to have that support from everyone around you, that they trust and believe in the things that you're doing, that they support the things that you're doing, so it's always great, seeing people to be able to jump on board and help the cause for what we're doing, because again, that's what we're doing the cause for, it's not just, like I said before, us doing something, it's just us maybe being able to create a certain platform to be able to impact different communities. And in this sense, it's from a standpoint of, children needing meals and not just children, but families in general.
Yeah, and Allen Robinson, of course, with his amazing foundation, the Within Reach Foundation.
And he's stepping up as the leader that he is for this team as he shows it on the field and off. He's had this foundation for a while now, and now he's, diverting the efforts here to the COVID-19 virus and all the problems it's, creating here in the city of Chicago and everywhere around the world, not just the country and the city, but everywhere. So we're all dealing with this, as a globe. It's a scary thing, and you like to see guys like Allen step up. I want to see George McCaskey step up. We got all these players stepping up. I saw Jim Irsay, and maybe George has in his own way, and maybe I'm missing something here, but I saw Jim Irsay, put a huge dollar amount down to get masks out to all the nurses and doctors in Indiana. As my wife is a nurse here in Indiana. That means a lot. I want to see George McCaskey step up in that same way. You're seeing the players do it. Allen's got this foundation, creating a lot of revenue, and got players like Charles Leno donating money. Mitch Trubisky just donated $10,000. And you like to see that, everybody coming together and trying to help for a good cause. And it was cool to hear him on our network, too, as well. Shout out to Badge and Bobby Bombs for bringing them here and getting our week started last week. That was Monday's episode. And they kind of, the Badge of Honor, a segment on the Barfly Tailgate Show, Ryan Badgley created, and, he kind of joined up with, the ball girl who makes footballs that are commemorative towards the person that wins the award, and we send them in. And, and again, shout out to Badge and Bobby for hooking that and bringing him on. You guys are going to have to tune in to Barfly Tailgate Show on your podcast stream to hear that whole interview. And I encourage you to do so. And you can really hear, Allen's passion for wanting to help people come out. And that's a great thing to see. You love to see that kind of leadership, because like Doug Plank said, you set an example without even knowing it. So he's doing that right now with other players on the team and even people like me and other fans watching him set that example. So shout out to Allen Robinson and his Within Reach Foundation. And then, of course, shout out Ryan Badgley and Bobby Bombs, for starting our week off right last week. And that's what we're doing here is we're doing a look back at one of the best weeks in Barroom's history. And I think it was appropriate. Doug Plank, huge guest. Allen Robinson, just as huge, with maybe the biggest cause you could possibly have right now. So, really cool stuff to be a part of, Joe.
No doubt about it, Greggy. And, Bearlissimo also had a big guest this week. He's next up on our list, and, he did a mock draft with Adam Rank and Aldo. Of course, Adam Rank from the NFL Network. The Rank tank he had the pedal to the metal this week, and there was a ton of great laughs. So join us as we take a listen to this clip from the Bearlissimo Show.
So going on to the big board, the Bears are now on the clock. And the top player on my board, Ryan, is and Matt, is Jonathan Taylor, running back out of Wisconsin. We've also got T. Higgins. We have a quarterback on the board. I repeat, we have a quarterback on the board. Jordan Love still has not been picked.
Jordan Love.
Sounds like we've got a Utah State quarterback, Jordan Love.
Why don't we just let's cut Mitch. Let's take Jordan Love. It's never going to happen. If this was the scenario, I don't know how this is happening. Listen, I'll be honest, we didn't have a first-round pick on Thursday night, so I went out and got wasted. Now I'm sitting here, and I'm wondering, wait, did I miss the pick where Jordan Love was not taken? I'm sorry, I don't mean to overtake this show.
Please do.
But you are the head coach.
In all seriousness, let's cut Mitch tomorrow. We're going to start Foles, and Jordan Love is going to be the backup.
Wow.
Let's do it.
Where's my cap guy? Where's my cap guy? He's nodding his head, saying, giving me a thumbs up. So, Bearlissimo, what is?
We're going to have a quarterback on a. I mean, it's a second year. It's a second day draft pick, so we're not going to get him for 5 years at that price.
Right.
But 4 years, Helps the Khalil Mack situation.
4 years and a tag. I mean, certainly the tag isn't that much different to the option price anyway, so it's only a couple of $1 million either way, isn't it? But Jordan Love, certainly, for me as the director of college scouting, if you could pick a QB to run the scheme that we have, it would be Jordan Love, and certainly more than enough arm strength in January to be able to cut the ball through the wind for the Bears. It also gives us a bit more time to clean up his footwork and his decision making, which is an area where he does need a bit more development, if we're being honest. But I can't think of a better situation than for him to be able to sit behind Foles in that quarterback room, and/or potentially Trubisky as well, because with that sort of the cap room that it's going to cost, it doesn't even bear thinking about whether we can maybe get an offer for Mitch. We might be able to ship him later in the draft if you want. If we pick up Jordan Love, we can start seeing if we can get offers for Mitch, and that might net us, let's say optimistically, a 3rd round pick. But
okay,
optimistically,
Ryan,
let's see what we can do.
Yes.
Ryan,
yes, sir.
Ryan, it's not happening. Ryan, stop. Hey, let me tell you something too. Now, you might not remember this, but I was in Kansas City when we traded up to get Patrick Mahomes, and we had Alex Smith there. Now, Alex Smith was a great veteran quarterback, and you know what? If he was healthy right now, I wouldn't mind having him. But Nick Foles can be our Alex Smith, and he can play this season, and our team is going to be very competitive. We're going to win the division this year because the Packers are going to regress. That was a mirage at 13-3. The Vikings are not as good as people think. They're getting rid of their best players, and they're keeping Kirk Cousins, so they're not even going to start their best quarterback.
Choke.
We take Nick Foles. We're going to win the division, and we got Jordan Love, who will be our starter. Best case scenario, year 2. Let's go.
We have 30 seconds to get the pick in. So Jonathan Taylor, T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault, Josh Uche, Austin Jackson, my 3rd ranked offensive tackle for left tackle, is still on the board. But Jordan Love obviously is the standout there in terms of value at the 2nd round pick. So Ryan, what are we doing?
All right, so let me make sure that I got this right. Adam Rank, who is playing Matt Nagy, wants a new quarterback. He wants Jordan Love.
And he sat there on the board.
George Bayless, who is playing Mark Sadowski, head of college football scouting, wants who? Tell me who. Give me a name.
Well, my number 1 ranked running back is still on the board, which is Jonathan Taylor, and my number 3...
I swear to God, I'll quit tomorrow.
I think that tells us it's Jordan Love.
No. I mean, if I could get rid of Matt Nagy and pick up a number 1 running back.
Would you stop? Would you stop?
So your number 1 running back is still on the board. Anybody else that you're suggesting? Are those my 2 choices? Because the pick
if
is...
you want to throw it downfield, you got T. Higgins is still there. Laviska Shenault is still there. You have got Brandon Ayuk is still there.
You want to compound the Trubisky mistake by passing on Jordan Love here, too?
I think Jordan Love is great value there, but he's my number 4 overall QB.
My chips are all in on my head coach, so I've got to go with Jordan Love. We're going to have a crowded quarterback room because I am sure we're not going to get anything of value from Mitchell Trubisky in the trademark, though people will wait for us to drop him. So let's go ahead and press the trigger on Jordan Love, the quarterback.
The pick is in, and Jonathan Taylor went the very next pick to the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, absolutely killer segment there.
A lot of fun there.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, between the comedic timing of Barlissimo, Aldo, and Rank, I mean, that was a great show if you guys haven't listened to it.
Yeah, it was fun to hear them do the role play, as you heard, Barlissimo playing the role of Mark Sadowski, and then Adam Rank from NFL Network playing the Ryan Pace role, and hearing them kind of go through those different hypotheticals. You got to listen to the whole mock draft and hear kind of how it lays out. It's a lot of fun, really, and that was one of the funnier moments because it kind of comes to a head on who they're going to pick there. And Jordan Love, if he's still there, I'm not the draft expert, so I leave that stuff to Shane and Phil and Danny Shimon and Ryan Badgley and Barlissimo, of course. Those are the guys that work hard on this stuff all year round. And I don't know, Shane's been beating the table for getting another quarterback in here. So you got to think if a guy like that is there at 43, that's could very well be who the Bears take. It just with no draft picks, you got to hope they then trade the next pick back so they can accumulate some more because they need help in other areas, offensive line, tight end, wide receiver, safety. There's a lot of stuff here going on in the draft, and quarterback right now, depending on what you believe in Mitchell Trubisky, is because there's already 2 guys in the room. Now you're going to have 3. I'm not saying it's a wasted pick because if Jordan Love ends up being a great quarterback, you'll take that value all day long. I can't tell you
all day.
I can't tell you whether or not he's going to be a great quarterback, but that's for the smarter minds on this network to let you know. And that's what Adam Rank was saying. I'll burn the house down if we take a running back over Jordan Love there. So I don't anticipate the Bears making a move like that. But, I really like a dynamic wide receiver. Shane and Phil did their mock drafts, and they both had KJ Hamler, and they didn't even know that either had both picked him from Penn State. This guy's got a lot of playmaking abilities. I'm looking that way because obviously I think Mitch is going to step up and surprise some people this year. I'm like one of 3 people. So, I'm looking at how we can get more playmakers around because we're going to have a great year. That's how I'm looking at things. And I know I'm crazy, so don't go with my train of thought. Just stick to, being, the sadistic, realistic one that never has any hope or joy in their life.
You're saying I don't have any hope or joy?
No, I'm talking about the doubters, the ones that don't want to believe.
I was gonna say, I'm on the same page with you. I mean,
in generalities, not to you personally, to the people that don't ever want to open up to the possibility of good things happening. It's always sky is falling, things aren't ever going to work out, and no one's ever going to get better.
I think good things happen either way.
I heard the same stuff with Javi Baez for years. Oh, he'll never lay off that outside slider. And now he's like, if we ever can get a baseball season back, he's like one of the best players in baseball.
He's on the cover of MLB The Show, Greg.
On the cover of the show, which I might need to pick up because we don't have anything else to do.
Greg, you got to pick it up because I have it. We'll do a virtual game, me and you.
Okay. I don't have the PlayStation online. I never paid for it because I just play sporadically on my own when I can.
Okay.
I'm not on it as much as I used to be. I'll play a football game here and there. I play Madden probably more than anything, or Grand Theft Auto if a new one comes out.
There you go.
Drive around, run a few people over. It's fun.
There you go.
But I'm looking forward to the next one to come. I love Grand Theft Autos, even when they were originally on the PC version. I loved Grand Theft Autos.
Have you done the Red Dead Redemption, Greg?
That's what I mean. I don't spread out too far. I'm not like a gamer.
The reason I ask is because it's also by the same company, and it's basically Grand Theft Auto in the Wild West.
Really? So you can kind of walk around and do other things. You don't have to stick to the game.
Right. Yeah. Red Dead Redemption 2. I'd definitely check it out.
Piqued my interest because I always said back then, I know we're getting off topic a little bit here, but that's okay. I like the naturalness here. I always said with the Grand Theft Auto, platform that they should make a Batman because I was a huge Batman fan growing up. That they should just do one, but it's Batman. You will run around the city and do whatever you want, fight crimes, stop little robberies here and there, or go meet up with Catwoman. All these. That's what I thought. And I know there's one game that's kind of like that came out a few years ago, but I always wanted that growing up. And that's what I'm saying. So back to the Barroom, Barlissimo's show. The newest episode just dropped. He had his most recent mock draft with Aldo Gandia here earlier today at 2 p.m. The latest edition is on your podcast stream. But I also encourage you to go back to his second to last episode with Adam Rank on NFL Network. Really fun stuff. And it's always fun when Adam Rank joins our network. So, I encourage you to go check those things out. And we've got a few more shows here lined up for the listeners.
And Greg, we just got done talking about the Barlissimo show and a little bit of Grand Theft Auto talk. But let's get in next to the Mike North Advantage. Earlier this week, technically last week, Mike North, the Advantage, had Aldo and Mike feeling the cabin fever. Aldo and Mike, they bonded over the amount of cookies that they've eaten in quarantine So let's go ahead and listen to this really, really nice clip.
And you don't ever know what you're going to get out of it, so just be careful out there. Aldo and I will try to entertain you. I mean, I get a itch on my nose now. I write down what time. It's 7:01. I had an itch on my nose. 9:30, cramping my calf. 9:45, a little soreness in my throat. 11:01, feverish. We're keeping diaries of stuff that was normal to us.
That's right.
Easy. You know, I mean, nobody's working, so you feel every little thing, don't you?
Yes, and yesterday I ate a box of cookies while I'm having a couple of whiskeys. I'm eating cookies.
I wiped out 2 boxes of Oreos already. They don't have a chance. I'm like a lion on a flamingo.
That is outstanding.
We're going to put on weight.
Yes.
I mean, I'm doing the best I can.
We are.
I did walk yesterday a little bit, but now I'm afraid to walk. I mean, every day you're hearing something. Now the virus is in the air.
Yep.
It's not going to be here, but it's going to be over there. It may be there, but it might be here. I mean, my God, it's a Jackie Mason routine right now.
You ain't kidding. Hey, Mike, I wanted to talk a little bit about the NBA season. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, their NBA insider, was on the NBA Countdown show with Maria Taylor. And she asked him, the question that we asked Luke, when can we see some action? What are the contingency plans that the NBA is coming up with and so forth? And he laid out a whole bunch of plans. Now, I grabbed a portion of his soundbite so that we could react to. This is Adrian Wojnarowski on one of the scenarios that the NBA is putting into place in case they can salvage this season.
Almost all of which, Maria, would be built around the idea of a return without fans in the stands, certainly initially, and whether there would be fans even in playoff games or finals, there's not been a sense that may be possible. That's why part of what the league has asked teams to do, not only give us dates for your arena, but give us dates for your practice facility, smaller venues around bigger arenas. Because if you were going to return without fans to play a game in a tighter environment where perhaps you could make it be a little more creative with television angles, with sound, to make it a more appealing product for television. And that's going to be, Maria, too, as much as anything, for the league to be able to get its television revenue from the postseason is important. It's important to be able to have those games on television more so than even the gate receipts of that they're going to lose in the arenas if they play without fans.
Mike, the idea of holding an NBA game in a 1,200 seat stadium and the cameras being all over the place and picking up live audio from the bench and the coaches and so forth would be, in my opinion, a really, really cool way to watch an NBA basketball game. What are your thoughts?
Well, if you're a bettor, you'd go on, a lot of teams wilt under crowd emotion, out of booze, out of, there's going to be no emotion in the game. It's going to be a playground game, but I have no problem with it. Then you're going to have betting lines up. Teams would act differently. I mean, look at teams practice in empty gyms every day. Mm-hmm. So I can see them playing. I just get a kick out of they were the first to walk out, okay, but they want to be the first to come back in. Bottom line is, how are all the players going to feel about it? Have they been asked? Right. Are you going to want to play up against the guy chest to chest when this thing may not be over yet, even though the numbers may be declining? I've been watching almost 24/7 this stuff. I forget about everything else for the most part. You do check in. I do check in on my sports. But if you're telling me that it's good for Rudy Gobert in a playoff game or to rub up against LeBron James about 3 days after everybody said, oh, the coast is clear, just remember, everybody at the beginning thought this was not going to be bad. Everybody was going to, mingle here. You can go to parades there. The virus isn't going to be that bad. I mean, we've heard the stories from local and federal people just making mistakes about this. So I think it's up to the players. I really, really do. But I think most players want to play in every sport right now.
Yeah, that is for sure.
I tell you what, Mike and Aldo know how to put on a show.
Yeah, and they bring up a great point when it comes to, trying to get the NBA back on schedule. You're seeing some recent news, that was the show from last week, but now you're seeing some stuff come out today about the MLB considering trying to do like a bubble city, so to speak, in Vegas and try to get some games in with no fans in the stands. The NBA is also considering doing something like that. Or actually, I think baseball wanted to do it in Arizona, where the minor league facilities are, theoretically. And then the NBA is looking into some things to try to do in Vegas, where they completely quarantine players for like 4 months. And, they're getting tested and they're not allowed to go anywhere. They can only play the games, but there's just so many complications that could come into that. Like baseball, for instance, you look at a guy like Chris Bryant, his wife's pregnant. I don't know if he wants to be quarantined in some bubble city in Arizona where he's not allowed to see his wife, who's, expecting a child here in the not too distant future. So, the NBA heard these reports and kind of dumbed them down and said, hey, slow down now. We don't know where we're going with this coronavirus yet. And so we don't know. But I just think, Mike and Aldo brought up a good point there in the audio clip. It seems like the leagues are trying to come up with solutions, but there's just so much uncertainty. And then the players themselves, are they going to be willing to take this risk? I know you're making a lot of money, but you just, with the uncertainty of how this is spreading and who has it, it's hard to really see where we are going to get sports back on track.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I miss sports more than anything right now, Greg. But even me, as someone who misses sports, it just seems like a bad idea, especially for the health of not only the players, but for all the players' family members, like you said. Like not even thinking about Chris Bryant's wife's delivery date. I'm thinking about Chris Bryant and possibly interacting with his wife after being in contact with all these players. I mean, it's little things like that no one's talking about.
Exactly right. You got to take it all into consideration. You can't just paint it with one broad stroke and say, oh, this will work. It's not that simple.
It's not. And it's a good point by Mike. So, that show has been fantastic. If you're not listening to the Mike North Advantage, make sure you guys tune in.
Yeah, well, Mike North every week on this network is an honor. I mean, I've said it a million times on this show, but having this guy a part of this network is just really cool. He's, the godfather of, Chicago Sports Talk Radio, and he's a part of Bears Barroom Radio Network. That's a pretty cool thing. So make sure you're tuning in every week to the Mike North Advantage with the super producer, Aldo Gandia. We want to try to play snippets of every show, or as many of the shows as we can, without our computers crashing and the internet and the thunderstorms rolling through and the Skype not cooperating. We're trying to battle through the adversity for you guys here, all our loyal listeners to Shy Fans in the Stands and Bears Barroom Radio Network, and that's what we want to do, is shout out as many of the shows as we can tonight, right, Joe?
No doubt about it, brother, and it's going to sound perfect in post, so don't worry. But the next show up on our list here, Greg, is a trip inside the mind of Dan Aguirre, and I tell you what, that was a hell of an entertaining show.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Joe, before we play it, of all the shows, I, tried to clip out, the Doug Plank interview, the Allen Robinson, Adam Rank, Mike North, all these different clips I'm trying to go through. Trying to find a minute and a half of Dan Aguirre, the cleanest version of what I can get and put on Shy Fans. This is a PG show, Joe. We swear sometimes, so maybe it's PG-13. But Dan, the getting inside the mind of Dan Aguirre, who is an amazing talent, and I'm so glad he's back here on Bears Barroom Radio Network, is a little more R-rated. So, to find a clip that was suitable for our show was actually a task in and of itself. And so I got to say, even though there is some vulgarity, that's okay. That's what we endorse. We accept that here on Bears Barroom. We like the vulgarity. We like the realness. So that's what I love about Dan, is he does keep it real, and he's just such an amazing talent. He's talking by himself, but he makes you feel like you're in the room with him. And he, some of his thoughts are out there, but that's what I love about him. It's genuine, and he's just kind of, always looking at things in different perspectives, and that's what I appreciate about Dan Aguirre. So I did think the name of the show, Inside the Mind of Dan Aguirre, was a really perfect thing. So he talks about lots of stuff, life, politics, adversity in life and all the different things. That's what's amazing about it. But I found a little clip where he was talking a little Bears because he is also an amazing Bears historian and does bring a lot of knowledge when it comes to the Chicago Bears overall, past and present.
Absolutely. And here's a fantastic clip from inside the mind of Dan Aguirre. So let's take a listen.
How about the Bears, though? Today I saw we finally got some guy from the Seahawks, a swing tackle. We always get these swing tackles that are going to provide depth because they play guard or tackle, but they never really play guard or tackle well enough to start, do they? But at least it's a start to hopefully rebuilding the line. I hope Barlissimo's right about Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham feels a little done, but Trey Burton has been an immense disappointment. So maybe he's an upgrade, and so is Adam Shaheen for that matter. I was thinking, because Cam Newton got released, I know the Bears couldn't do a physical on him because of the coronavirus, COVID-19. But maybe if they hadn't made the Foles trade, maybe they make a play on him right now. Because as we know, we've given up a 4th-round pick for Foles and agreed to, $21 million on the salary? Shane's theory is, and it's certainly not an incorrect theory on paper, that Foles is going to be basically given the keys to the car and be the starter, and it won't be a real competition the way, for some reason in 2008, Kyle Orton was just viewed as the starter over Rex, regardless of what Rex did, which never understood that. I was not a Kyle Orton guy.
Before we move on to the next clip, let's give Dan a proper shout out.
Of course.
As we're trying to do of all the shows. Make sure you're tuning in. We'll see how his show, I'm not sure if he's going to do a show weekly or whatever, but, continue to look out for Dan's segments of Into the Mind of Dan Aguirre. We love Dan, and he is the voice of the Barroom, back and better than ever. And he'll be, you'll be hearing a lot of his voice drops on each of the shows. I want to integrate him into what we do. You hear him on our opening song, and I'm glad that he's back because, I loved him in the opening song. We didn't want to let him out of that. We weren't going to. And now he's back, so I want to hear him do some, voice intros maybe for us, maybe for some future guests. He's just such a natural talent for it. And that's what we do here at Barroom. We're such a support system for each other, and everybody kind of brings something different to the table. And Dan's the voice, and Phil sings the songs, and Joe does the producing, and Greg does the annoying cutting off people when they talk. That's what I bring to the table. Yeah, I got all. I'm a 5-tool player over here, Joe. I bring so much to the table. One of which is cutting people off. It's just one of my great talents.
Hey man, it's a great tool to have. You got more balls than me when it comes to cutting people off. That's for sure.
It's not easy to stick your neck in there and try to get in there where you can fit in. When Waddle was on a couple weeks ago, it's like, like I said, you listen to these guys on ESPN 1000 or 670 or Sirius XM or wherever you're listening to radio, and they can do a 15-minute interview and cover twice as much as, me and you trying to get Waddle in 30 minutes. And it's like, how do you get the person you're asking to keep his answers short and sweet? It's just, I haven't quite figured that out here on podcasts, but that's not really what podcasts should. Yeah,
you don't have to on a podcast.
There shouldn't be limitations, and we saw that with the Doug Plank interview on Bears 100 Proof. Going for an hour and a half. I mean, that was incredible. I don't think I can make it through. My mind might be melted by the end of an hour and a half interview with anyone here. Yeah. You see all the trials and tribulations we've gone through tonight. There's a lot of mental stress put on when you're trying to make sure you're putting on a good show for the listeners, but that's what we're trying to do here at Shy Fans and Stands.
So Greg, let's listen to a clip here from Draft on Tap with Ryan Badgley and Danny Shimon. They did a fantastic job on the show. So let's hear this clip.
Jordan, we had just started Danny's mock draft that he released today, and his first pick at 43, as he was the Bears GM, was Brandon Ayuk. And we had a little bit of a question on Twitter today. This came from @MikeTalksBears. And this question was, is his skill set too similar to Anthony Miller? And if so, is that necessarily a bad thing? And Danny had actually answered it on Twitter. We wanted to get your thoughts on Danny's first pick with Brandon Ayuk.
Well, just comparing him to Anthony Miller, I think they're vastly different just because Anthony is known as a guy that is a really, really, really good route runner. He's a guy that's known as being able to get off press, really good at the line of scrimmage, and he's really strong at the catch point. Now, with Ayuk, he's not as well seasoned of a route runner. He does struggle to get off press a little bit, but the thing you notice about Ayuk is that how he turns into a running back after the catch. And that's something that I think is the best part of his entire skill set, just because he's very strong at the catch point, but he's still a bit raw as a route runner. But the thing that I love about Ayuk is that even though he has struggled every first year in whatever program he is in, that he has been in, or whether that's from junior college or whether that's from his first year at Arizona State when he was the number 2 receiver with N'Keal Harry. And then I think the same is probably going to happen during his first year as a rookie. But his second year, he has absolutely exploded. And that's just him getting a feel for the position, exactly the askings of it. So I'm a big fan of Ayuk, and I think he's vastly different than what Anthony Miller does bring to the table.
Yeah, I agree, Jordan. I answered this question on Twitter, and I basically said, for me, Anthony Miller, like you said, different skill set. For me, he's more of a guy who can line him up in a slot, got the quicker ability to beat, those inside slot corners and get down the field. For me, Ayuk is just a big play potential waiting to happen. Whether it's on a slip screen or bubble screen, give him a 5-yard slant in, and he's a guy who's got the potential to be able to go ahead and take it all the way. I know he ran a 4.5 40 at the combine, which was kind of misleading. I think on tape you see him, he plays much faster than that. So yeah, I agree. And plus Ayuk is a bigger target. 6 feet, 200 plus pounds, 33-inch arms. Provides a bigger catch radius than Anthony Miller does. So that was my response to that question. So speaking of mock drafts and all that stuff, I'm looking at your latest mock draft here, Jordan, and a couple of players that you actually have going to the Bears. And I want you to kind of talk about. And it's a kid that Actually, both these guys, I've gotten a late start on them.
Man, Greg, Draft on Tap was a fantastic episode this week. And, they really brought it. They always do. Danny Shimon and Badge.
Yeah, and they had a special guest, Jordan Reed, come on. And they were, as you heard there in the clip, kind of discussing different guys they want at 43. Danny Shimon, this Brandon Ayuk, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, it's an interesting name. And then also some news came out on him today. And I was actually asking the Draft on Tap guys their thoughts because, he actually got selective surgery. So, I was wondering if maybe that would affect his draft status here going forward, because I know he's Danny Shimon's guy, and it'll be interesting to see where he falls, without, with the coronavirus and public social distancing, they're not going to be able to get guys in for medicals, and everything's going to be done online. So, a guy that has surgery, I know it's, elective surgery or however you want to say it, but still surgery nonetheless. And when you're in a draft where, the smallest margin affects your draft status, you got to wonder what's going to happen with one Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State. He had, as it says here on a tweet from Mike Garofalo, he underwent a core muscle surgery, performed today, and he's been dealing with this issue the last 4 months. Ran a 4.5 at the combine, but decided to fix it now since there's no OTAs in sight. So, it's something that seems minor, but surgery is only minor to the person not having it, as they like to say. Amen. So, it'll be interesting to see where he falls, because it sounds like he's a dynamic player. And then when I asked, Danny Shimon and Ryan Badgley today from Draft on Tap what they thought of this most recent news about Brandon, Draft on Tap responded to me that they assume that this is a sports hernia injury and he should be full go by training camp when it rolls around. However, with today's climate, with team doctors having no access to these players, it'll be curious to see if teams will hesitate before drafting him. So that's going to be the most interesting thing here going forward here in the draft. And there's going to be plenty of draft coverage here on Bears Barroom Radio Network.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be the most interesting thing to see is who's going to slip through the cracks. How are teams going to – is it going to be a play it safe draft and you're only going to go with the names from the big schools because, you're not able to do the same kind of research you're normally able to do in a normal working year? And will there be a really talented player fall to us because, people are too scared to take them and, Pace is confident in his evaluation on the guy. And then all of a sudden we get a gold mine falling in our lap. I mean, don't forget we have 43 and I believe 50. So, we got a couple picks coming up there and there's a good chance somebody very talented is going to fall through there. As Phil said, not everybody gets taken in the first round. Everybody's got all these projections and before you know it, there's 50 players being taken in the first round. There's only 30, there's only 30 picks. So they can't have everybody make it. So it'll be interesting to see who gets there. But, Danny Shimon definitely likes Brandon Ayuk. And, Jordan Reed is looking more around offensive line. So there's a lot of different takes you can go at 43. It's going to be really interesting to see who goes where. And again, like I want to reiterate to our listeners, here in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be gathering, all the audio messages we can from all of our listeners. Leave us a voicemail, just like you were for the Shy Fans in the Stands. How are you handling, sports lockdown, sports quarantine? We are now asking the listeners to leave us a quick voicemail, your name, who you are, and who you are picking at 43 for the Chicago Bears. That's your homework assignment for Shy Fans in the Stands. And then we're going to play that audio. We're going to have Joe throw it together, put it in the lab. We're going to put some music to it. And we're going to play all the different picks the Tuesday before the draft and see who everyone's got. And then when our day comes to finally pick at 43, we'll see who is right and who is wrong. See who is the smartest man in the barroom. Shane holds the title and the belt.
Yes.
Phil's got that thing bolted to his waist. So, but I've ripped it off him for a week. We might have to give the smartest man title to somebody else. You never know. Might be Tooch that gets it right.
Maybe.
Tooch wants the running back. Shane said he's going to, burn his house down if a running back gets taken. Jonathan Taylor, just like Adam Rank was freaking out with Barlissimo. So it'll be really interesting. Not sure who I want at 43. I'll let you know after the first round's over.
There you go.
I can't research 70 guys. I'm not Barlissimo. So really interested to see where it is going forward. But Draft on Tap, doing great work, excellent work all year. Honestly, they've got shows all year long from the last 6 months that you can go back and listen to all of them. And they would carry some weight into the conversation of the draft coming up this week. Offensive line group, wide receiver group, tight end group, all these different groups they've covered on different episodes. So if there's a particular position battle you're looking for, a position you're looking for in the draft, you might want to check out what Draft on Tap had to say. As I said, they just had Jordan Reed on. That was some great conversation and the most relevant. But they've had a lot of different episodes with a lot of good stuff on there. So shout out to Draft on Tap. Shout out to Ryan Badgley and Danny Shimon, of course, and make sure you're tuning in to Draft on Tap and all the shows on Bears Barroom Radio Network.
And we got one more show to talk about from last week, Greg, and you and your wife, Jenny, were a part of it.
Exactly. We had a huge slate of guests. Allen Robinson, Adam Rank, Adam Hogue, Nancy Faust, Jordan Reed, Doug Plank. We had it was just the greatest week of guests in history. And then, of course, none other than my wife, Jenny. I don't know if we want to say it's making her debut on Bears Barroom, but it really was because all her other, times that you've heard her on these airwaves has just kind of been while I've been on. It wasn't her as the guest of honor. And she was the guest of honor on I Have a Stream, and we were really excited to come on. We talked a little Ozarks. You guys had a great show talking Westworld, talking Tiger King. Haven't quite got into those shows yet. So we came on and brought our Ozarks expertise because we blew through season 3 in 3 days. And that's no easy task when you got a little 2-year-old, you're chasing around the house.
That's right. So let's say a little prayer that this clip works. So here we go. Here's a little clip from I Have a Stream.
One of the things I love about Ozark are the strong female characters. Jenny, what do you think of the female characters on Ozark?
Oh, Greg, I don't think Greg would agree, but yeah, I think they're important characters, and I do like, even though Greg gets annoyed by the wife, I
Hate the
like
wife.
her.
Hate the wife.
Oh, come on.
Girlfriend's the same way, and she's my favorite character.
Wendy's awesome.
I
She's
love
yeah.
Ruth. I love Ruth.
Laura
Ruth
Linney.
is like the best actor on the or actress on the show. Best character
Yeah.
on the show, hands
Ruth
down.
is awesome.
But
Yep,
the
Ruth is
wife,
killer.
not to get into the spoiler stage, but the wife, I'm about as done with her as I was done with Skylar, or with Walter White's wife. I believe it was Skylar.
Yeah, I think it's Skylar.
So great stuff there. Jenny and you and me and Aaron and Tooch all talking Ozark season 3, which was out of this world.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and if you tune into that show, you know you got to make sure and Tooch, put the warning. Joe put the warning out on their promo that there's a spoiler alert session of that conversation. We dig into it early on where there are no spoilers, and then we get into a part where we talk about the end of the show. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to watch it first before you go back and listen. But it was a great conversation, Joe. It's fun to talk about all the different aspects, all the different characters, who you're rooting for, what you want to see here coming up in seasons ahead and everything else. And it's not Breaking Bad, but it's like a taste of it. And Breaking Bad was just such an amazing show. You'll never duplicate that quite the same, but Ozarks is definitely in that same category, definitely worth a watch. And we were honored, Joe, to come on I Have a Stream. I think that's just a really fun show, and right now maybe a show more appropriate than ever because everyone's stuck at home, quarantined, trying to
no kidding.
Keep their mind busy, keep interested, keep something to watch. We're all looking forward to The Last Dance, the Bulls documentary coming up here on ESPN. But you have all these other TV shows and movies that you can catch up on while everyone's stuck at home. And, I guess there's worse places to be stuck in than your home. So, why not? Watch a few movies, watch a few shows. We're watching Ozarks and, like I said, and everything else. But, there, I have Ford versus Ferrari as far as movies concerned. I really enjoyed that. Make sure you check that out. But I Have a Streams bringing all those different, movie shows and movies to light. That's what you want to check out if you want to figure out a good show that you might not be thinking about.
Hell yeah, brother. We have a lot of fun every single week. We always talk about different stuff, what we're watching, what's new, what's upcoming, what the big show is. We even did a little segment about Tiger King this week, which is kind of taking the world by storm. So, yeah, tune in. I Have a Stream. Usually we do the show on Friday nights around...
Are you a Better Call Saul guy? A Harp 4803 wants to know in the chat.
I haven't seen it.
I watched the first season of Better Call Saul when it first started, and we fell off it. It wasn't that it was not good. We enjoyed it, but, we just hadn't gotten back into it. Now that we're kind of sitting at home, I'm kind of reconsidering maybe restarting it because I know how many people love it and where it goes, and it's a prequel to the Breaking Bad series. So it's definitely something that has my interest because Breaking Bad's like number one on my list of TV shows of all time, and it is for a lot of people. So, I haven't gotten through Better Call Saul, and neither has Joe Harp, but, certainly something I might dig into here while we got some time on our hands.
It's definitely on the list along with the million other shows, but yeah, it's some good stuff right there, Greg. And we had a ton of fun on I Have a Stream. We have a ton of fun with all the shows on this network, Greg, and even through all the trials and tribulations of this show, we made it and talked through every single show and appearance from last week.
I hope so. And my goodness, all the different things we had to fight through here to trying to promote everybody. I don't know what happened here. Maybe it's a prank. Maybe somebody's up to something here, Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe Phil went to Mixlr headquarters and fucking pulled
something on us, I don't know. It's just a tough day at the office. We're doing the best we can. Yeah, that's what you're gonna have on live radio. So but we saw it in its full effect tonight. So we wanted to do a throwback to the week that was here at Bears Barroom, a very special week. And we had a lot of fun and a lot of great guests. And we did some fun pranks, as you heard in our open. And the Doug Plank interview is one for the record books. And Adam Rank brought some funness to the network, with his little role play session with Barlissimo. Barlissimo's so good at role play.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, that's a little teaser. You gotta, when you sleep in bed with Barlissimo, you know all the little things about one Barlissimo. So
I bet you do.
Yeah, it's he's got so many amazing qualities, and role play is one of them. So make sure you turn into Barlissimo to hear that with Adam Rank. But yeah, all the different shows, Barfly Tailgate Show and Draft on Tap, just so much different things to offer here at Bears Barroom Radio Network. And that's kind of what we wanted to shine a spotlight on. We don't just, every week, this was a special week for guests, but these guys are all putting in great work and great shows week in and week out, trying to keep everyone, tuned in to what they want to hear here at Bears Barroom Radio. And now with not as much sports going on, but people looking for an escape, that's what we're here trying to provide. So I wanted to make sure I shouted out all the shows that are doing the hard work, trying to keep everyone entertained and having a little fun. When we're going through this pandemic, the least we can do is connect in this way and try to make things a little easier on everybody.
That's right. And now we've officially gotten through all of them, Greg.
Hallelujah.
And it was a hell of a week, and it's been a hell of an eventful show.
That's right, it has. And I definitely think we've reached the wrapping up moment of our show, Joe. And let's hope the wrap-up music doesn't crash our computer, because everything has been crashing our computers here today on Shy Fans in the Stands. So if you don't mind, Master DJ Joe, there you go. When you hear that music, that means we've finally reached the end of Shy Fans in the Stands. Wanted to keep it under 2 hours today. I'm not sure after Joe finally cuts up all the audio. It just might. We're hoping it is.
It might be. I don't know.
But if it isn't, it's not my fault. I tried. We tried to be prepared today for you guys. And then, of course, the internet wouldn't cooperate. But I guess shout out to the podcast gods for not letting us have some important guest on tonight, like Tom Waddle or Mark Silverman or Kaplan or Doug Plank or Alan Robb, somebody big.
Yeah,
that would have been the worst if we had our computer crashing a million times with somebody like that. So we can work through it tonight. We tried to shout out all the shows, and that's why normally our shout outs are left for all the shows on our network, but since we spent our whole show doing that, I'm going to just keep that under the whole umbrella and shout out to everybody working hard at the barroom here while we're fighting this coronavirus pandemic. We're having a lot of fun. Bears 100 proof tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central. Going to keep the fun rolling along. And as I teased at the beginning of the show, no shortage of pranks. The pranks were running amok last week, and that continuation of that story tomorrow night on 100 proof. And maybe even some audio production from one Greg Braggs and John Santucci. We were in the lab, as I was using the term earlier. Tooch and I were in the lab over the weekend, and we threw together something fun that I think you guys will enjoy for 100 proof. So taking a few cracks at the producing spin now that I'm the chat room moderator, the beer wench, as Aldo called me earlier. I had the barroom bandito, I think Zach Sullivan suggested. So we've got some different names, as my nickname, the chat master. I don't know how much I like that, but we got to get our kinks worked out on MixLR or rid us of it forever. Please, Aldo, let's move to Zoom. I'm over the Skype. I'm over the MixLR.
Yeah, MixLR crapped the bed tonight. It wasn't me, man.
Yeah, it wasn't me. You sound like Shaggy there. You'll have to add that into the But yeah, shout out to you, Joe. We're fighting through the adversity here on Bears Barroom Radio, tonight with all the internet stuff. So shout out to you working on. Shout out to everybody in the chat that's hanging out with us still through 4 computer crashes. I want to shout out Harp 4803, Grant Sims, ISO Bob, Lady Bear, she's always such a special heart in our chat room. Alex Acevedo, the swag man, Rel Ramey. We just had so many guys. Aldo and Shane were in there making fun of us earlier. They had to get to bed. Shane's got to deliver the mail. But shout out to those guys for hanging out in the chat. We appreciate all you guys. Ed Big 76. I could go on all day. We appreciate every single one of you listeners, all the kind words you send us after the shows. We appreciate that stuff. We're working hard for you, wanting to make this fun, and hopefully we can work through some of the technical issues and have a smooth show here going forward as we dive into draft coverage and The Last Dance, the Bulls documentary coming up. Might have a little Bulls guest next week. I've been talking to a few people trying to get Ron Harper to come on the show, but he won't take the bait, Joe.
Not yet, no.
But I'll get him. I'm a persistent person, so I will get Ron Harper. So we'll see if we can get him. But I got some other Bulls ideas I've been kicking around. Might have some Bulls thoughts. We got a Bulls documentary coming up that I'm very excited for. I know this is going to be all draft all day on this network, but while the draft is going on, The Last Dance is also going to be going on. And anybody from Chicago that's not watching that isn't a Chicagoan. I'm sorry. This is going to be the most epic 30 for 30 ever, and I'm just so excited for it. It's my childhood, so looking forward to that. But yeah, shout out to you, Joe. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to Bears Barroom for working so hard and doing everything that we can to make this pandemic lockdown a little more enjoyable. And I look forward to Tuesdays and Wednesdays now, as I do Shy Fans and Stands and, the chat room for 100 Proof.
Yeah.
I do look every week. I look forward to it because, we ain't got much else going on, so might as well have a little fun on here. Right, Joe?
No doubt about that, brother. We got to have all the fun in the world, especially when we're doing this show. It makes things very interesting, and it makes the week go by a lot faster. Looking forward to this, and, we got through it somehow, Greg. We did it.
We made it somehow, some way. It's getting late into the night, so we're going to end it a little differently than we normally do. My good buddies who have a band called Mr. Funny Man, they've been put on, social lockdown like everybody else, so they're not able to do what they love, which is playing music. And they're just such a special band. They're from the region, Northwest Indiana. And they do, what's the word for it? They do a Pink Floyd tribute band. So they're a cover band sometimes, but when they're not, they're Mr. Funny Man. And they do all sorts of shows from back in the day. But when they're the cover band, their shows are called Echoes of Pompeii. And they play strictly Pink Floyd music, and they've got lights and a video that goes with it, and they do different festivals around the area, the St. John Fest, the Highland Fest, all these different fests, and they're so much fun to watch, and people follow them around because they're so good. And the other day, I came across the timeline on the Facebook, and these guys, they're like brothers in arms. There's two twins, and then there's another guy named Andy. They've been singing in this band for years. They play the saxophone. I'm telling you, they are the most legitimate band. I'll post some video of some of their music on my Facebook sometimes, and you'll just see how talented these guys are. And the other day I came across their timeline. They were singing The Show Must Go On, and I just thought it was so appropriate, kind of hit home a little bit as to what we're missing right now. And I just kind of appreciated the message because – they sang it in such a beautiful way, but it was also a perfect message for right now. The show must go on. They are right. We got to keep this ball moving. We can't let everything stop. We gotta persevere through this. We will get through this together, as a country, as a nation, as a world, as people. And I look forward to the day we can get back to, hanging out at a St. John Fest and listening to Mr. Funny Man, and I'll bring you and Catherine out, and we can take in the good vibes, and that's what they bring, and that's why I wanted to end the show tonight with Mr. Funny Man. So shout out to those guys. I've always loved them, and I'm one of their biggest fans, and would be it would be my honor to have them end our show tonight because I think the message is perfect. So for those of you that don't know, check them out on Instagram or on Facebook. Mr. Funny Man, Echoes of Pompeii, but no better way to end the show this week because the show must go on, Joey.
Take away my soul. Am I too old? Is it too late? Where's the feeling gone? Glad I remembered the song. The show must go